After my family joined hands to send me to prison for 3 years, I start learning how to behave myself. I do whatever everyone else tells me to do. The day I'm released from prison, my wife, Regina Johnson, sits in the car and says coldly, "If you ever lay those hands of yours on Ty again, Before she can say anything else, I jump out of the car, pick up a brick from the side of the road, and smash my hand into a pulp with it. Regina stares at the bone sticking out and goes pale. When we get back home, Tyler Lowe, my adopted younger brother, ambushes me in the bathroom and scoffs. "So what if you're the biological son of the Lowe family? I can just as easily have you kicked out of the family." Then, he uses a blade to make a small cut on one of his fingers before crying out in alarm, "If you really hate me, Cal, I'll leave right away. Please don't kill me." Regina and my older sister, Callista Lowe, enter just in time to witness his display. Shaking with anger, they stomp on my wound with their high heels. "You haven't changed one bit. If anything happens to Ty, I'll make you pay for it with your life." I nod obediently and march straight to the kitchen, where I jump into the massive meat grinder before turning it on. The blood and bits of flesh spray all over Mom and Dad, who end up walking in right then. Mom lets out a shrill shriek before fainting, while Dad forces himself to remain composed as he turns off the power. At this point, even Regina, my sharp-tongued wife, can't find the words to say anything. She stands frozen, her body trembling. When we're inside the ambulance, Tyler clings to Regina, quivering as he says, "This has nothing to do with me. He jumped into the machine himself. You have to believe me. It's almost impossible for me to stay conscious through the unbearable pain, but I muster the strength to nod along with him." After failing to win over my family, I'd spent 3 years in prison. Later on, the system told me that if I showed absolute obedience until the day I died, I would receive massive financial compensation and be transported back to my original world. My flesh had been shredded almost beyond recognition. It took the doctors 3 days to wrestle me from the clutches of death. As Regina stared at my heavily bandaged body, pain flashed through her eyes. She turned to Tyler and asked, "What exactly happened in the bathroom? He used to value his life so much. Why would he jump into a meat grinder just because someone stepped on him?" Tyler's eyes darted evasively. "I have no idea. Cal went crazy out of nowhere. He called me a phony and said he wanted to kill me." My older sister, Callista, shielded Tyler and shot me a vicious glare. "Do you have no shame, Calvin? Ty has been nothing but good to you, yet you're resorting to a nasty trick like this to gain sympathy. If you wanted to die so badly, why didn't you just smash your head into a wall?" Recalling the system's absolute rule of obedience, I swiftly nodded. I forced myself upright, the bandages soaking through with blood. Taking a deep breath, I hurled myself at the wall with every ounce of strength I had left. A deafening bang echoed. My skull split open instantly, and blood streamed down my face. What a shame I didn't die from that. As I gathered my strength to charge at the wall again, Regina panicked and yanked me backward. "Calvin, what are you doing?" I coughed up a huge mouthful of blood just as my parents rushed over, pulling me into their arms. "Cal, what's wrong with you? You're breaking my heart," Mom cried. Callista scoffed icily. "How long are you going to keep this act up? You're just scared you'll get punished for hurting Ty." "That's enough, Callista." Dad cut her off with an enraged shout. "Calvin is covered in blood, and his skull is shattered. Yet you're claiming he's just pretending?" He turned his glare to Tyler. "Explain the situation properly, Ty." Tyler burst into anguished sobs, deliberately exposing the small cut on his hand. "Don't be mad at Callie, Dad. It's all my fault I framed Cal. I was jealous of him, so I falsely accused him. Just punish me instead." Everyone's expressions turned uneasy. Regina's grip around me loosened, a conflicted look in her eyes before she pulled her hand away. "Calvin, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong anymore. All you have to do is apologize to Ty, and this matter is settled." I remembered Regina's warning the day I got out of prison. "If you ever lay a hand on Ty again, She meant she would cripple my hands. Since they insisted I had bullied him, I should show some sincerity. I painfully crawled toward the bedside table, grabbed the fruit knife, and plunged the blade straight into my wrist. Blood splattered everywhere. I viciously twisted the knife until a sickening crunch followed, sawing my own tendons apart. My body shuddered violently before crashing onto the floor. Blood splattered across Callista's high heels, making her scream and fall on her butt, while Tyler hid behind Mom, shaking. My parents frantically shouted for a doctor, throwing the entire room into chaos, but Regina was suddenly nowhere to be found. When I woke up again, Regina had returned with the surveillance footage from the villa, intending to cement my guilt. Instead, she presented the truth right in front of everyone. After seeing the footage, everyone fell silent. Mom gave Tyler a hard slap. "I'm so disappointed in you, Ty. Cal is your brother. How could you do this?" Dad turned away with red eyes, and Regina showed a flicker of deep remorse. Tyler trembled in fear, instantly crying. "Cal went to prison because of me. I was just scared he'd take revenge now that he's out. If you're upset with me, I'll just end my life." He made a show of moving toward the window, but Callista yanked him back, her face devastated. "Mom, Dad, will you only be satisfied if Ty's dead? Who wouldn't be afraid of having a ticking time bomb right beside them?" My parents and Regina seemed persuaded, nodding in silence. Callista then grabbed my mangled wrist, snapping, "Calvin, do you still resent us? Is that why you staged all this to get revenge on Ty?" The intense pain dimmed my vision. "No, I've learned my lesson over those 3 years. I'll do whatever you guys tell me to do. Even if Tyler wants me dead, I'll do it. Callista didn't believe me. To test me, she ripped the family portrait locket off my neck and threw it to the floor, shattering it into pieces. I didn't even blink. You really don't care at all? She demanded, aggravated. Since you don't want me to care, Callie, I won't, I replied calmly. Tyler smiled sinisterly, slowly walking over to Regina and wrapping an arm around her waist. Mom, Dad, Callie, I'd really like to see whether Cal is telling the truth. Cal, I want to make Gina my woman right here, right now. Regina's body stiffened, but she didn't push him away. They stood right in front of my hospital bed and started kissing. It was a taunting, possessive kiss. When Tyler saw that I didn't react, he became even bolder, tugging off Regina's clothes. After a feeble attempt to stop him, she completely gave in. The sound of their heavy breathing drew sideways glances from people outside the door. In the past, I would have fought Tyler to the death for merely touching her hand. Now, I remained motionless like a statue. When they finally got up, Regina stared at me in disbelief. Calvin, you watched me get intimate with another man, and you don't feel anything? Tyler said he wanted to make you his woman, and you didn't reject him, I replied, lowering my head. So of course I went along with it. Their expressions cracked. Callista hurriedly turned to my parents. I know some instructors from an etiquette school who specialize in dealing with defiant people. If he can endure their punishments, then we can feel at ease bringing him home. My parents hesitated, but Mom eventually said, Cal, it's only a small test. Just bear with it. I obediently nodded. Soon, 2 men dressed in black came in and pressed the tip of an electroshock baton against my throat. I didn't dodge. I leaned forward obligingly. Electricity shot through my veins like poison needles. My entire body convulsed, but I clenched my teeth and refused to let out a single scream. This pain was nothing compared to the hellish torment Tyler had arranged for me in prison, where I was locked in the darkest cell and subjected to constant beatings. Back then, I resisted to survive. Now, the system had promised me that if I remained obedient until death, I could return to my original world with a huge fortune, so I learned to submit. When the baton was pulled away, Tyler stared in disbelief. Don't stop! I don't believe he's actually this obedient. The men handed me a bottle of sulfuric acid to drink. Everyone expected me to finally tear off my facade and rage. Instead, I flashed an eerie smile and parted my lips. The sulfuric acid slid down my throat, scorching me from the inside. My tongue instantly disintegrated, and my entire face melted into a bloody, burning mess. Blood poured from my mouth as my expression twisted grotesquely, and my consciousness slipped into blackness. At last, when my parents saw me lying there with smoke rising from my body, they let out strangled sobs. Mom staggered to the bedside, staring at the charred wound on my throat. Cal, why aren't you fighting back? Tell me what happened. I'll stand up for you. Why didn't she offer to do that when they sent me to prison 3 years ago? Regina came over as well, a deeply pained look in her eyes. I'm sorry, Cal. Why did you behave so foolishly? From now on, I'll protect you. I won't let anyone hurt you again. I weakly shook my head, my voice slurred and barely coherent. You won't. You guys were the ones who sent me to prison. Why would you protect me? Those words felt like a slap to their faces. Callista, face pale, stubbornly declared, Don't let him fool you. He's just having a pity party. He deliberately let them do this so you'll feel guilty. Shut up, Callista! Regina whipped around, her eyes red. Can't you see the state he's in? They poured sulfuric acid down his throat. He almost died. He should have just died then, Callista screamed back, pointing her finger at me. Look at him. He's completely insane. He's just acting. But the moment her gaze met Tyler's frightened expression, her eyes softened. Don't be scared, Ty. I will never let you suffer any injustice. Tyler abruptly spoke up in a timid voice. Mom, Dad, Callie, I think he has some kind of mental disorder. What if his show of obedience is just an act to make us let our guard down? A mental disorder? Callista's eyes lit up. That's right. He's mentally ill. If he can be this ruthless to himself, who knows how he'll hurt Ty once he gets the chance. Dad hesitated. Cal, your behavior seems abnormal. It's best if a doctor checks on you. An hour later, 2 psychiatrists diagnosed me with severe schizophrenia, suggesting isolation for everyone's safety. Callista screamed sharply. Quick! Have him taken away right this minute. Apply for mandatory confinement. A troublemaker like you should just die. The word die was all my mind grabbed onto. Instinctively, I obeyed the command. Noticing that one of the windows didn't have any safety bars, I climbed onto the windowsill while Regina and Callista were busy arguing, and I jumped. My body fell through the air, the wind roaring in my ears. Above, I saw their horrified faces pressed against the glass. With a deafening crash, I hit the ground like a watermelon smashed against concrete. My skull split open. Blood gushed out, forming a pool all around me.